Hello everybody and good afternoon and welcome back to my channel Zara Storyblog. Today I'm going to be reading for you Little People Big Dreams and our person for today is Nelson Mandela. And if you haven't seen these sort of books that I have read on my channel, please go back to the two previous videos and pick your favorite. And let's get reading about this person's life. Written by Marina Isabel Sachinas Vergara, illustrated by Alison Hawkins. You see on this page, it matches his t-shirts. So let's get reading. There once lived a little boy in South Africa whose name sounded like a song. Rolhiladala. It meant troublemaker in Hoxiana, his language. His language. He was a member of the clan who had lived in that land long before the country even existed. Ooh, that's so many years. So as you can see here, there are some houses, a hill, and some chickens at the back, and some lambs all over. Lambs here, lambs there. And there's a kid, and there's a baby lamb, and there's a woman holding a basket on her head, and that's Nelson smiling back at the goat. It looks a bit weary, right? His great-grandfather was the clan's king and his father, its chief. No one in his family had a normal education before. On the first day of class, his teacher gave each of the students an English name, and from then on, Rolhena was known as Nelson. By the time Nelson was 12, his father had passed away, but he inherited the sense of fairness. It was decided that he should be taken to the great place to be instructed to Chi's family, who treated him like a son and continued his education. Listening to the tales told by the oldest visitors at the place, Nelson discovered his love of African history. He also learned that the country they had been taken over by white men. They had made laws and took the decisions for all the inhabitants. So there's a person, and right there's Nelson and some other people, and they look kind of disappointed, but Nelson's surprised. And the goat that he was smiling in the previous page, the goat's just right next to him. And this is their imagination. Like over here, they're sitting under the stars and dancing across the fire. And over here, the fire's blown out, and the white man is pointing them, and they're going there. So what do you think they're doing? You guessed it. He's making them leave. Big homes, good schools, pay fair. White people had everything they hoped for, while everyone else was forced to give up their dreams. Nelson knew that wasn't fair, so he went to university, waiting to do his best to change it. When he found out that his family was arranging his marriage, Nelson ran away to the dark city, a neighborhood in Johannesburg. It was so dark at night There was just the moon that gave him light while he studied. Nelson joined a group that worked for equal rights. When the government set up a more even, unfair system called apartheid, it raises laws to separate people because of their skin color, burying their hopes and for a better future. Still, Nelson refused to give up after being arrested many times for organizing protests against the athlete laws. He had no other choice but to go into hiding for a long time. He only went out dressed in a disguise. One day, he and 7 of his friends were accused of trying to outthrow the Rage's government. He was sent to jail for 27 years. That's a really long time. Still, from his cell, he kept dreaming of a country where the people were treated equally. During the years behind bars, he didn't just earn the respect of his guards, he became a symbol of the struggle for justice. All around the world there were calls to free Nelson from jail and end the apartheid. So there's some calendars right here, and there's a kid spray painting and it says Free Mandela. That's Nelson's last name. And people are holding candles and they're like praying that Nelson would be released, and here's a concert which says his name, and there's people with a picture of Nelson and a note that said Free Mandela. And you see here he is, still in jail. He looks very different. Nelson was a 72-year-old grandfather when the president of South Africa visited him and decided to release him. They both agreed to work as a team to change the laws and build a fairer country, and they won a Nobel Peace Prize for it. Millions of people who had never had a chance to vote before chose Nelson to be their first black president of South Africa. It was a huge step towards the Rainbow Nation, where the people of all races would live together peacefully and everyone would be counted. So there's the boxes where all the voting, where all the notes go. There's a picture of him with his name, and this where it says vote, and outside there's a huge line of people. I like these. I really like these books. Don't get me wrong. And by facing every struggle in his long walk to freedom with hope and demonstration, little Nelson learned that the greatest glory is rising every time when we fall, because a winner is just a dreamer who never gives up. So here's a beautiful rainbow, and there's lots of kids like this, and look, they're all being confident, especially this boy in a wheelchair. So I know you already recognize this page. These two pages are how Nelson Mandela actually looked like in his life when he was alive, and this is his name, and on top is when he was born and when he passed away, and And below these pictures are years, like years when Nelson grew up and became a lawyer. And also this whole stack of words, this is Nelson Mandela's story again, but it has more details and it's describing what Nelson did. So Nelson Mandela was born 1918 and he passed away on 2013. Rahula Mandela was born 18 July 1918. Missable, in a village in South Africa. As a child, he was given an English name Nelson and was inspired by stories of his ancestors. Residents against the colonization of South Africa, after discovering that his family was arranging his marriage. Nelson ran away to Johannesburg when he began studying law. There he joined a political party in the African National Congress, who were speaking the end of apartheid, an unfair government system that separated people based on their skin color and allowed the only white people to live freely. Nelson was arrested many times for protesting against the apartheid and often went into hiding. In 1962, he was accused of trying to overthrow the government, and in 1964, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. During his time in prison, Nelson became a symbol of anti-apartheid movement, and people across the world called for his freedom. Upon release in 1990, he worked as with the President F.W.D. Clark to build a fairer country. Together they won a Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 for peacefully ending an apartheid and laying the foundations for democracy. The following year, Nelson was selected as the first black president of South Africa, and he led until 1999. After retrying from politics, Nelson spent the rest of his life working charities and spending time with his family. He's regarded in South Africa as the father of nation and as known as Tata Modiba. His Tebu clan name, Nelson's devotion to justice, as remember that journey to equality may be long, but this is one he must never give up on. Wow, that was great. Nelson did a really good job his whole life. He wanted everything to be fair. He went to jail. He wanted everything to be fair, nothing to be unfair, and that's why because of Nelson Mandela, now people weren't judged by their skin color or there was no unfair law. And that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed this story that I read for you. And if you want to listen to more of my stories and more of these people who and what they did in their lives and what happened, please hit the like and subscribe button right now. Bye!